This is what I told you. You ask me, I feel that I have the advantage in everything. This is what I truly believe. Me personally, I would ask him, like, what's your favorite submission? Whatever, I don't know. Dark show, I'm gonna submit you with that.
You know, play that game of trying to be like the next McGregor, but you don't want to mess with Islam and them, because like they said, like, it's different there. You want a street fight, they'll street fight you. They're not Islam doesn't care about, oh, let's get paid for it. Like, he sees you, you disrespect him, he's gonna show you what disrespect means from that.
Surprise with your health. Yeah. Which is the dumbest thing you can do in your entire life.
It is a dumb thing, especially for an athlete.
Exactly. He also suffered a lot with the weight cuts. That's a big damage for your body. That's also one of the reasons why I changed the weight class, because I realized that my health is the most important thing in my life. You can have everything in this life, but if you are not healthy, you don't have any.
He didn't whisper it. He said it like a dare. If you can make 155, get in the cage and we'll talk. That wasn't just a stray line from Islam Makhachev. It was the champion drawing a bright line for Ilia Topuria, who has turned a simple call-out into a looming collision. Islam's warning wasn't only about fists. It was about respect, boundaries, and real-world consequences when trash talk strays from showmanship into something else. Keep poking and things can get real. The kind of real that doesn't involve bright lights or gloves. Even then, he sounded measured. Nothing personal yet, but the reminder hung in the air. Don't mistake discipline for softness, and don't mistake silence for fear. Topuria heard the message and didn't blink. He says he's better everywhere, not someday, right now.
Ilia Topuria is talking about coming to 155, and you're like, I'm tired of these little people coming up to fight me.
That makes sense. Give the chance third time from the same guy. Okay, I beat the Volkanovski twice. People still say you're a bit small guy. Yeah. He's not your weight division. If I beat Topuria, it's gonna be some beat Islam. No, if people, everybody, like a lot of people ask me to fight Ilia. What do you think? Not makes sense. I fought with Ilia for what? Not belt, nothing. Money. I have money. I don't need money. And I already fight with some of the guys who come from the small division, and but I'm not saying no. If I clean my division.
I wanted to talk to you. Obviously, you had a big week at the UFC. Some crazy stuff went down. With Ilia moving up to lightweight, vacating the title. You weren't able to announce it then, but is it safe to say that Ilia Islam is the fight that we're sort of working towards, or could he be fighting?
There's still other possibilities. So there's a lot of shit going on right now.
That's what a champion essentially is supposed to look like. Yeah. Make the calls, go out there, deliver on the calls. Then all of a sudden he vacates the title. I mean, how do you feel? Because you said earlier, like, you were looking at him and going, there's holes here.
I think it's good for the sport, to be honest with you. I mean, him and Islam, people really want to see that. Everybody has their own style, and it seems like his style is just doing what he did. Honestly, I believe Islam is just a little too much for him, but I'm also a fan, so I would have loved.
And he doesn't need to turn himself into a cartoon to sell it. Ask him his favorite submission, and he answers the Darce like he's telling you his coffee order. He insists the path is simple. Meet the champion head on, find the neck, and end the night with a tap on the canvas. He predicted greatness before, updated his bio before he was crowned, and then delivered. Now he's calling his shot again at a new weight class. Islam isn't interested in being a springboard for a newcomer at lightweight, even if that newcomer became a phenomenon at 145. He's carried the belt through pressure nights and heard every nitpick along the way. Beat another former featherweight and critics will say the champion is picking on smaller men. Avoid the matchup and they'll say he's avoiding danger, so he set terms. If Ilia is serious, make 155 your home, defend what you build, and then step into the Shark Tank like every contender. Khabib Nurmagomedov underlined that stance with a blunt marker. In his view, beating another ex-featherweight right now adds little to Islam's resume and gives the loudest voices more ammo. The optics matter when you're chasing greatness, and Dagestan wants the kind of fights that move the legacy needle, not the ones that trigger the same old chorus. Earn it at lightweight, bring something undeniable, and then there's a conversation worth having. Ilia, of course, isn't stepping back. He pointed past Islam toward his circle and suggested some of the kids around the champ might pull this out of bounds, but he kept the message focused. This gets solved in the cage, not in a parking lot. He says 2025 is the moment. Featherweight is finished, the boats are burned, and the next chapter begins at 155. He even updated his bio to declare 2 division intentions before the paperwork was dry, a move some call arrogance and others call a prophecy. The schedule puzzle makes everything harder. Justin Gaethje is parked near the top with a reel of chaos that sells itself. Arman Tsarukyan is knocking like a debt collector. Charles Oliveira never really leaves the conversation. Daniel Cormier offered a tidy solution: book Topuria versus Islam and pair Gaethje with Tsarukyan, with the winner of that getting the next title shot. It's clean on a whiteboard. In real life, timing, injuries, locations, and dollars have a vote, and those votes rarely line up. Meanwhile, Topuria insists the UFC gave him a promise when he vacated at featherweight: move up and fight for gold immediately. That claim hasn't been publicly confirmed, but he treats it as written law. He isn't interested in babysitting a ranking or fighting a contender for the sake of a number next to his name. He wants the belt or nothing, and he's willing to wait, knowing that every headline keeps his name strapped to the champion's waist, whether the contract is signed or not. Tyron Woodley tossed a quick grenade into the discourse with a short response suggesting Ilia's lack of lightweight resume isn't the real hold-up. Fans online took that and ran, pointing to moments when short notice or convenient matchups were praised, then asking why this one feels different. Some of that critique is fair, some of it is fan fiction, but it all adds fuel to a fire that the sport can't stop watching. Through all of it, Islam keeps returning to the same themes: health, professionalism, and process. Weight cuts aren't a side quest, they're a tax that the body pays with interest. Careers fade not from one bad night, but from 1,000 cuts against the scale. He talks like a man planning to rule long enough to see the next golden prospect grow old. That means controlling camps, timelines, and opponents until the math favors him completely. Ilia shrugs at concerns about size or muscle. He trains with bigger men, he says, and he's known for a clinical style that doesn't waste motion. Tight defense, patient pressure, and sudden violence when the window opens. He believes he can stuff the early entries, punish resets, and make his moments count before the fight stretches into the long minutes where Islam traditionally smothers hope. That's his window, and he knows it won't stay open long. Volkanovski's opinion slices through the talk because he's shared the cage with both. If the fight goes late, he leans Islam. If it ends early, he leans Ilia. It's a simple equation: early danger versus accumulating control. You can feel the electricity in that idea. The first 10 minutes played like Russian roulette, then a slow drowning if the storm doesn't land. That tension is why this matchup keeps trending even without a poster. Rumors suggest Islam has his eye on history too. The whispers about a move to welterweight or even testing middleweight never quite die. Loyalty to friends at 170 complicates the map. But 2-division glory talks louder than most obstacles. If that door opens, the conversation tilts away from Ilia entirely, at least for a while, and the Spaniard-Georgian has to pivot from hunter to strategist to keep the pressure on. And lurking like a keyword that always trends is the McGregor option. Even the idea changes the oxygen in a room. Ilia admitted that if that call came, he'd sign. Not because it's easier, but because one night with the sport's biggest lightning rod turns a contender into a headliner forever. Beat the icon, and the next negotiation writes itself in bold. That doesn't replace the championship chase. It supercharges it, creating a path where spectacle feeds legacy. So what happens if the cage door finally shuts? The opening exchanges look like a chess clock slamming down. Islam tests distance with feints that hide level changes, trying to glue Ilia's heels to the fence where the mat feels like wet cement. Ilia stays unblinking, slip and rip entries ready to punish overcommitments, eyes hunting for the angle that splits the champion's guard. One small misread and the Darce becomes more than a quote. One smothering chain and the canvas turns into Dagestan's classroom. That's why the call out mattered. It wasn't empty noise. It was a clean signal of styles, egos, and stakes that can't be duplicated. Islam's response was a boundary. Ilia's push was intent. Between those two lines lives the fight everyone wants to see. Whether it lands at International Fight Week in Abu Dhabi or on a wintry night with short buildup, the tension is already doing its job. It makes every contender bout feel like a vote. Every press conference a referendum, and every social clip a teaser. Maybe the bracket happens and the division sorts itself with clarity. Maybe Islam chases history north and Ilia camps at the border, daring the belt to come back home. Or maybe the simplest script wins. The champion sees the challenge, the challenger sees the crown, and both decide they'd rather risk everything than hear one more opinion. Until then, the message is the same from both sides. From Islam, make weight, prove your place, and then step into my world. From Ilia, I'm already there. Bring the contract. No matter which path the UFC chooses, the matchup lives in that perfect zone where questions are sharper than answers. Is Ilia's early power enough to crack a defense that has handled world-class strikers? Can his takedown counter stay clean after the third attempt, the fourth chain, the fifth mat return? Can Islam's pressure translate before a clean pocket exchange flips the night on its head? And if the fight spills late, can anyone swim at championship depth with a man who turns minutes into a habit? The sport is addicted to those questions. They make the scroll stop, the room go quiet, and the countdown start in people's heads. Ilia calls it destiny. Islam calls it discipline. The truth is probably a fistfight between the two. If the contract appears, the first 10 minutes will feel like standing in a thunderstorm holding metal. If it doesn't, the conversation keeps boiling until timing, money, and pride finally align. Either way, the dare still stands. Make 155, walk to the center, and find